Thank you for coming to my channel. No, that's not good. Oh, I love Diet Coke. I'm gonna use a straw because I'm not a savage. It's weird, it's weird, it's weird, it's weird. If you see me eating, it's because I'm eating. Okay. I'm addicted to Diet Coke. 100% addicted. This is a mukbang style. Are you supposed to see the food if it's a mukbang? Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Mary. If you did not know, now you know. I want to start off by saying thank you to anybody who has watched, who has subscribed, who has commented. I know it's not a lot and I know that, you know, a lot of people want millions of views and I'm just happy with like the 20 that I get. So I'm just gonna start off by saying thank you so much for supporting me, watching me, whatever it is. I know this might not take off and this might not become my living, but just sitting down filming a video is fun for me. I like telling stories. I like just to sit down and like talk about experiences I've had and just sort of like relay my 24-year-old wisdom onto the universe. So thank you all for letting me do this. And I'm excited that there is a platform like YouTube for people to just kind of like express themselves however they want. I think it's great. I want to give a quick shout out to a lot of YouTubers that inspire me to sit down and make videos. Colleen Ballinger is amazing, and you know, watching her videos throughout her pregnancy, and I've watched her for years and she's a big inspiration to me. She is doing amazing. Even if she doesn't think she's doing amazing, she is doing amazing. Today what I'm gonna do is I have some Chinese food here, some beef and broccoli, some boneless spare ribs tips, some crab ragoons. The baby is asleep. It's Saturday night. I'm home alone. I'm off. And Patrick is at work and CJ is at work. And I have no friends. I'm not qualified in any way whatsoever to talk about stuff medical or, you know, I'm not certified in anything pregnancy related. Like, there's none of that. But I am a woman. I am 24 years old. And I had experiences. If I talk about something that's gross, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna get too graphic, but there are things like mucus plugs and placenta and, you know, just things that have to be talked about. And I don't really 100% agree with sort of shading pregnancy and, you know, shying away from the subject and not talking about it because ew, it's so gross, when it's not really that gross at all. It's one of the, if not the most natural things on this earth. So anyway, hopefully my story can help somebody out there who is going through pregnancy, who maybe has uncertainties or whatever, or anybody who wants to be pregnant in the future and doesn't really know what to expect. Like, whatever it is, hopefully my story can help you. Hopefully I can contribute something to your life. So I was due March 11th, 2018, which was a Sunday, and I worked throughout my entire pregnancy. In the beginning of it, I had 2 jobs. I worked at my full-time job that I have now still, and I worked at Hula Hands. Hula Hands is a restaurant here on the East Coast. I don't know if they have others out. I think they do in other parts of the country, but I was working at Hula Hands as a hostess, and I had my full-time job, and I was going to school. I stopped working at Hula Hands, I forget when. I think I might have stopped working there in September, actually, so I think I only had my 1 job at the time, but I did work my entire pregnancy, literally up until like the 2 days before I gave birth. So I was lucky in that I have and did have an office job. So they were really flexible with me when it came to me working from home during the end of my pregnancy. So what we had talked about between my bosses and myself was that the last maybe month and a half of my pregnancy, I could work from home 3 days a week. One of the first things that I think happens within the few days before somebody gives birth is their mucus plug comes out. So what your mucus plug is this, I guess it's like a seal, is the best way to explain it, that is at the tip of your cervix. So the mucus plug is at the tip of your cervix, and it's what separates the baby and the placenta from like the outside world and the outside germs. So a few days before you go into labor, your mucus plug will come out, and it's gross, and you know that it is what it is. I remember I was really nervous when it came out because it was Wednesday of that week, and we had just had a major snowstorm, and there was still snow in the forecast, and I was like, God damn it, I'm gonna go into labor and have this baby in a massive snowstorm. That's gonna be my labor story, is that I gave birth in the car on the way to the hospital because the roads were so terrible. Like, that's what I'm thinking in my brain. It wasn't until Friday that I started to have like serious contractions. And a contraction is kind of hard to explain, but the best way that I can explain it is that it's just like a period cramp. It's like a huge, long period cramp. That is really bad. It's like a period cramp times 100. No man on this planet will understand what that means, but all you ladies out there, you know. You know. So I started to have contractions, but they weren't, you know, they tell you when your contractions are 5 minutes apart, this happens, 10 minutes apart, this happens. My contractions, I don't even think, even when I was in the hospital, they were never at some sort of consistent interval. So I wasn't sure what to do. I was emptying the dishwasher and I felt this like leak. As a pregnant woman, it's very possible to like pee yourself. I didn't do it really a lot. I don't even think I did it at all. But if I did, no judgment. So I called my doctor. And my doctor goes, well, it is very possible that maybe your water broke, but it's also very possible that it didn't. Maybe if I eat like this, then you guys can see the food and it'll be a real mukbang. She was like, look, if you can come into the hospital and we'll check you, but if your water didn't break, then we're sending you home. So really, it's up to you. I didn't want to go in yet because I didn't want to go and come home and go and come home. Like, I didn't want to play that game. I wanted to go to the hospital once, and I wanted it to be the time. Like, I'm going because this baby is coming. It was probably like 2 a.m. I couldn't get any sleep. So I was like, you know what, Pat, like, let's go to the hospital. Something told me inside, you should go to the hospital. We get to the hospital 3 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning. And the nurses, you know, they hook you up and they put IVs and, you know, they do the whole shindig. And something that they do to check if your water broke is that they take this like little, the best way for me to explain it is like one of those pool water test strips that have the different blocks of color, and you dip it in the water and it tells you what your chlorine levels are and, you know, if you have this bacteria in your water or whatever they say. It was a strip like that. And what they do is they like swipe it, you know where, and if it turns a specific color, that means that there's amniotic fluid present. So the nurse did that, and it turned green, I think it was. And so she was like, yep, like you have amniotic fluid in your whatever, like your water broke in some shape or form. Let's get the doctor in here. So she, you know, examines me, and she tried to explain to me that when your water breaks, the physician can tell that it broke because they can like feel the baby's head. It's like when they go in there, it's hard, and sometimes they give you the hair, and that's how they know that your water broke. If your water didn't break and your baby is still kind of high up, which was my case, then it sort of feels like a water balloon when they go in there. They can tell that this amniotic sac is still full of fluid, and the baby was still high. In my case, she was still very high. So then she was like, look, I want to like do, you know, I want to, you know, really test this out. So I don't know what she did, but she went in and she was like, okay, so you do have a tear. And because you have a tear, we can't let you go home because now your chances for infection are a lot higher because there's this tear in the sac. So then they admitted me. At this point, you know, Patrick and I had told our families, look, stay home. The baby is still high. My water didn't even really break yet. Nothing's gonna happen within the next few hours. So there's no reason for everybody to rush here. We'll, you know, reconvene in the morning. The morning comes, Patrick's asleep on the couch. I didn't really get a lot of sleep that night. Obviously, like I was having contractions. I don't 100% remember when I got the epidural, but I know it was like Saturday morning and I know the sun was up. And I think it was after my water actually broke. The only way I can describe this sensation is like when you crack your knuckles it feels like a knuckle crack, but like in your uterus, and then followed by a huge gush of water. And that to me was like how people say you can't stop it, you know when your water broke. That was that moment. Now like the ball is rolling. For some reason there were a lot of people in my room already. There was an anesthesiologist trying to adjust my epidural because I told her that I was still feeling pain from it. And there was a nurse in there who had just given me something. And then there was a second nurse in there helping that nurse. Then all of a sudden, the monitor starts beeping, and then 2 other nurses and my doctor run in to the room. And, you know, they're trying to move me around, and they're like, her heart rate is dropping. Her heart rate is dropping. You need to move. And anybody who knows, like, a 220-pound pregnant woman with a 7-pound baby inside of her is not the easiest thing to just move. They were like, look, for whatever reason, the position that you're in, she is not liking it, and her heart rate is dropping, so you need to, like, move over. So I did, and they helped me. So she checked me again, and still, like, the baby was really high up, and I wasn't really dilating that much. So finally she checks me one last time before Saturday night, and she says, okay, then this is my doctor. She says, okay, you're 7 centimeters dilated. Let's see what happens through the night. Try and get some sleep. His family left. My family left because obviously, like, I was only 7 centimeters. I still need 3 centimeters to go, and I was progressing very slowly. So everybody went home to sleep and then come back the next day. Then Sunday morning comes along. I want to say it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and my doctor comes back for the first time since she had said I was 7 centimeters, like, hours before that. I was still only 7 centimeters dilated. So I had never been 8 centimeters. So even though the nurse said that hours before, it wasn't true. And I mean, I asked her why that was, why the nurse said 8 if I was only 7, and, you know, they just kind of said 7 centimeters for one person could be 8 centimeters for another. Even at this point in time now, the doctor could feel the baby's head swelling inside. So she was like, I know this is not the way we want it to go, but you're gonna have to get a C-section. Like, we have to do an emergency C-section right now and get her out. In that moment, that was, like, so heartbreaking to me for a number of reasons, and I'm not gonna get emotional about it now, but just as, like, a young woman who should have a normal pregnancy because you're young and it's what your body is meant to do, when you've gone through this 9 months of being pregnant and going through all these obstacles, especially for me, going to school. I graduated in this time. Like, while I was pregnant, I graduated, and I got a full-time job with my degree, and I had overcome so many hurdles throughout those 9 months that I felt like this would just be like a cakewalk. You know, I'm a young woman who is pregnant, and my body is going to take care of it. And when she said those words to me that we had to have the C-section, I just broke down. She told me, I know this is not what we wanted. I know this wasn't the plan, but with her heart rate dropping numerous times, her head is swelling right now. Like, we need to get her out. Literally within 20 minutes, I was in the OR, and they were pumping me with medication to numb me. And I had an issue my whole time at the hospital with feeling my contractions. I had told the anesthesiologists, I want to say 4 or 5 different times, that I could feel my contractions and they were painful. And they had to keep coming and adjusting it. And I know this is because of a previous situation that I had that I don't want to talk about right now online, but I will in the future once the situation is dealt with and blows over. But I had some nerve issues in my back, and that is why I was feeling my contractions the majority of the time. What they do when you're getting a C-section is the doctor will poke you secretly with a scalpel in your abdomen to see if you have feeling. And I'm like, hey, I can feel that. Like, it was right in the middle, like lower abdomen, like right where she had to cut. And I even heard her debating with the other doctors in the room. I can't go higher than that where she is numb because the baby is not that high, but I can't go lower than that because the baby's not that low. She really is right there where I need to cut, where you're having feeling. I wanted them to knock me out because at this point, I was so overwhelmed. I was so emotionally drained. I was like, please just get this baby out of me okay and alive. That's all I wanted. They decided not to knock me out and to just give me what I think was local anesthesia in the area that I was having feeling so that they could cut and just get her out. So for any of you who don't know, the baby is behind organs because she's in your uterus, and your uterus is not like front and center. So there's intestines in the way, there's a bladder in the way, there's a lot of stuff in there that's in the way of the baby. So when they have to take things out and then cut the uterus. Like, it's gross. And a C-section, when you're awake for it, you can feel it happening, but it doesn't hurt. They take the baby out and I hear her crying. And that was like a wave of relief for me, just to hear her cry outside of my body. And what they did was they kind of brought her around the corner and like showed her to me, but I couldn't hold her because I was like so hopped up on meds. So they showed her to me and she was purple. Like, she was purple, but they said it was normal. So now Patrick kind of walks away to, you know, hold her hand and take pictures of her, and now has entered the world, and the pediatrician has to do what they have to do. And I'm just kind of over there on the table, like, with all of my body parts out, like, put me back together, Humpty Dumpty. And I start to feel a sharp pain in my stomach, right? And I'm like, guys, like, this is painful. Obviously not as cool, calm, and collected as I am now, but I was like, I can feel that. Like, I feel pain. And she was like, yeah, you know, you're supposed to feel some pressure. You're supposed to feel some pressure. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, I feel pain. Whatever it was you gave me to numb me because I wasn't already numb is wearing off, and this shit hurts. And I just started screaming out in pain. Like, I can't really describe it, but eventually they just had to give me laughing gas and I just knocked out. They did what they had to do to get her out, and I'm forever grateful for that because now I have a healthy, beautiful baby. But goddamn, could you not just knock me out?